Realism is not real art. This is something I've heard many artists say. And when it comes from artists who I've followed for a long time, artists whose opinion I have a lot of respect for, honestly, it kind of hurts. We often hear things along the lines of, realism is not art, it's a skill. The argument used for this is that art is creative, and that the artist has to express themselves through the art in some way for it to be considered real art, as opposed to realism, which some claim doesn't require any creativity or expression, but is simply a technical skill of copying. We often hear that the worth of art is linked to the artist's intention. This is most commonly heard in relation to art mistakes, as in, does a certain feature look that way because the artist made a mistake, or was it by design? But this has also often been applied to realism. Some say that the realism artist's intent is purely to copy what is in front of them, and therefore it has very little or no worth. Some go so far as to say that it cannot even be considered as real art. But the most common criticism of realism is, there's no point in realism. A printer can do what you do faster and more accurately. Or something else along the lines of, if you want realism, take a photo. I want to make a case for realism, or at least start a discussion about it. I want to address all these criticisms and explain why, in my opinion, realism is a skill, but it is also art, just like any other art style. Realism is creative, and it is a way in which artists express themselves. And when I say realism, in this video, I'm grouping all forms of realism together. Realism, hyperrealism, photorealism, and any other type of realism. But first, I have to address the issue of gatekeeping in art. While I want to talk about realism, because that is my personal favorite style of art, I feel like every art style goes through some form of gatekeeping. But I want to be very clear when I say that we all have our preferences, and that's perfectly okay. Not everyone is going to understand or find value in every art style, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just how we are. Art, like beauty, is subjective. There's some styles of art that I don't particularly like or understand. But I would never be so arrogant as to claim that just because I don't find any value in it, that means it's not real art. It's just gatekeeping. While planning this video, I thought about approaching this video in many different ways, but I feel like the best way I can convey my thoughts about realism is to talk about my own experience with it. The first time I ever spent hours on a drawing, trying my very best to achieve the highest level of realism possible, was when I was 10 years old. My grandfather was in intensive care, and because of hospital rules in my country, I couldn't visit him because I was under 12 years old. But I wanted to give him something that would remind him of home and family. At 10 years old, I had no interest in drawing people, but I loved animals, and my grandfather was born in India. And so, I went through all the nature books we had, because this was 16 years ago in South Africa. And I remember finding an image of a Bengal tiger as the background for the table of contents of a nature encyclopedia. So, I took out my primary school set of pastels and spent hours trying to perfectly copy this beautiful Bengal tiger. So, was that tiger, copied from a photo, real art? Did I succeed in drawing a realistic tiger? Probably not. I was 10 and didn't have much experience, and the drawing was lost, so I can't tell. But doesn't matter? Did whether I succeed or not make a difference to whether it's real art or not? It could be argued that whether I did it willingly or not, in my failure to reproduce every last strand of fur of the tiger, I was forced to make a creative decision of what to represent. that realism is a sliding scale, where perfect realism is no longer art but pure technical skill. So, if I had perfectly reproduced the photo, would it no longer be considered real art? I'll get to this question later on. Or is the answer simply that no realism is considered to be real art? Despite the many, yet more nuanced creative decisions artists are forced to make, is it still no longer real art or have no value? Because the creative decisions we made were not intentional? So this brings us to the argument of intention. When drawing that tiger, my intention was not to be a human printer. My intention was to express my love by perfectly capturing the beauty and power of that tiger. And for me, that is one of the main points of art. However, it could also be argued that a kid trying their best to show love to their family is very different from an adult trying to copy a photo of a celebrity, for example. So, let's fast forward a few years. From memory, that tiger was the best drawing I would produce for years to come, just because of the love, time, and effort I put into it. As a kid, while art was something I liked, it wasn't something I actively pursued. Then, when I was about 16, I decided that I wanted to decorate my bedroom walls with many different drawings, including my favorite movie characters. But for a reason I couldn't explain back then, I didn't want to simply print images because inherently I knew that for me, there was nothing special about doing that. My drawings weren't very good, but there was something so satisfying about having my own drawings up there instead of prints. But my life changed quite dramatically after that, and I stopped drawing completely. It wasn't until after the confinement, when I started drawing again, that I finally realized what it is about realism that was so appealing. And it wasn't until I understood the real power of realism that my drawings improved dramatically in the space of a year. If you want to see just how much my art improved, watch this video next. I think I speak for many realism artists when I say that the intention is not to be a human printer. The intention is to perfectly capture and display what we love as it is. Every last detail deserves to be shown. To show the raw, imperfectly perfect state of the world as it is. There is something so satisfying and calming in obsessing over every last detail to show the beauty of what we see. We draw, not only for ourselves, but also in the hope that maybe our art will make someone stop to question. What is it about this subject that made someone want to spend over 100 hours creating it? We show every detail of life as it is. Our intention is to capture the beauty of the world as it is. This is how we express ourselves. Realism is how we express ourselves. We express our desire for perfection, our desire to find order in chaos. Through realism, we express our love, admiration, or appreciation of the subject in question. We express the way we find beauty in the world as it is. The subject doesn't need to be changed or interpreted because it is already perfect as it is. The beauty of realism is in the details. It shows everything. It shows the beauty in every blemish, every pore, and every last hair. In the case of portraits, the unchanged look in the person's eye, the details of the expression. Everything is there. Nothing is hidden. We put our subject above everything else. Does this mean copying from a photo doesn't count? In my opinion, copying is perfectly valid, but this question is so controversial, and I think it deserves its own video, and so it will be the subject of my next video. So if you're watching this in the future, maybe it already exists. So subscribe and turn on the notification bell if you don't want to miss it. People see beauty in different ways. It's subjective. So is art, and so is creativity and expression. At university, a friend and I overheard a conversation between two very passionate mathematicians discussing the beauty of mathematics. This led to a debate between my friend and I over whether maths can, in fact, be beautiful. I argued that anything can be beautiful. And who are we to say to someone that something that they find beautiful simply cannot be beautiful by definition? I would like to argue that it's the same thing with creativity and expression. Who is anyone to say that our way of expressing ourselves doesn't count, just because it doesn't enter into their view of what artistic expression and creativity should be like? This is art. Are they now gatekeeping artistic expression? To me, that mentality contradicts the whole point of art. Realism is creative, or more accurately, realism artists are creative. Some people will try realism and won't find it creative because it's not their thing. In my opinion, while the definition of art isn't tied to intention, creativity certainly is. Creativity is defined as the use of imagination or original ideas to create something, inventiveness. If I were to try certain art styles that I won't name, which are generally considered to be very creative art styles, I personally wouldn't use any creativity at all because I'd be frustrated and bored. To be clear, this is not me bashing other art styles. I would be bored because it's just not my thing. And so personally, I wouldn't be creative, while others in my position would. The same goes for realism. Not all people who try realism are going to be interested in what they're doing. They won't find joy in it, and so they'll be bored. And so for them, it'll be mechanical and not creative. But that doesn't mean everyone doing realism has the same mindset. As a realism artist, I make creative decisions constantly while drawing. I'm going to use portraits as an example because that's what I typically draw. While many artists aim to achieve perfect hyperrealism, even if the drawing is incredibly similar to the reference, it is rarely exactly the same. But let's take the most extreme example, where a photo is perfectly reproduced. Still, every stroke we make, the way we make it, how we choose to layer the colors, how we choose to arrive at each color, the way we mentally process the different forms, the light, the skin subsurface scattering, everything is a creative choice, and no two artists will be exactly the same. Is it as creative as some other art styles? No, probably not. But that doesn't mean it's any less valid or not real art. Art isn't some kind of competition where only the most creative pieces can be considered real art. Our creative methods are like fingerprints, more nuanced but unique to each person. How we arrive at our result is a series of constant creative choices. This ties in with my last point, and the most common criticism of realistic art. A printer can do what you do, but better. If you want something realistic, why not just use a camera or Photoshop? Or it'll never be unique, and someone will always be better than you. It's shocking how common these arguments are. Before I get into my response, I would like to thank everyone who has subscribed to my channel or liked one of my videos, or even just made it this far. I'm so grateful towards all of you. You help me out so much. I count and appreciate and read every single one of you. So, thank you. The artist Sean Mackenzie, or Knee Yellow Art as he's known on YouTube, has always been my favourite colour pencil realism artist. His videos are one of the greatest reasons why I started drawing with coloured pencils. and he released a video explaining why he was quitting realism. One of the reasons he gave in his video is that he said that he got a comment asking what was the point in doing those drawings when a printer can do exactly the same thing. And he said that he had no response for this. He was my inspiration, and hearing him say this absolutely broke my heart. But saying this to a realism artist is like saying to a marathon runner, "What are you running a marathon for? I can just get in my car and drive there." To quote the Stormlight Archive, which is, in my opinion, the best book series ever written, "Journey before destination. Sure, maybe I can arrive at a similar result that would be satisfactory for most people, but that's not the point. It's the journey that counts. The hours of training, trying to perfect what can never truly be perfected. Always trying to grow, trying to do better than the last. And the satisfaction of seeing what you, as a human, can accomplish. And I think this appreciation is mutual. It's the reason why people watch sprinters or marathon runners, or any kind of sport for that matter. We like to celebrate human achievement and what humans are capable of." And for the comment, "There will always be someone better than you." Yes. And so what? It's like saying to a runner, what's the point? There's always going to be someone that's going to be faster than you or have more endurance than you. So what? It's the journey that counts. Or should art just be made for the end product? If that's the case, I think that would be a great loss of experience in life. It would be like taking food supplements instead of actually eating. If art is only made for the end product, where's the passion? Some people will watch this video and still never see or understand the beauty, the creativity, or the point in realism, and that's completely okay. There's some art styles I don't like or understand. As I said before, we all have our preferences, and it's only human nature. But a lack of understanding doesn't give anyone the right to define what is and what isn't art.